Our visit to the Geraldine Military Museum continues, and later on, we'll take a look at a Bob Semple tank replica. The Studebaker M29 Weasel was a tracked vehicle developed by the US during World War II for operation in snow and swampy terrain. I believe this example in the museum was recovered from surplus in New Zealand, where the vehicle had been used post-war in remote areas and farming before being carefully restored for display. Originally designed for a planned Norwegian commando raid under Project Plough, the Weasel evolved into a versatile cargo and personnel carrier. Powered by a 6-cylinder Studebaker engine, it had a top speed of around 36 km per hour and could carry over half a ton of cargo. Amphibious in early versions, with a ground pressure of only 1.9 pounds per square inch and highly maneuverable, over 15,000 Weasels were produced between 1943 and 1945. They served across Europe and the Pacific in a wide range of roles, from supply transport to casualty evacuation. After World War II, they were used for polar missions. Here we have my youngster trying to get the air raid siren going. This corner of the museum had a replica concrete bunker, giving visitors an impression of what it was like to be inside one of these buildings, looking out and seeing the enemy approach. And to one side, visitors can explore a short section of trench line. When is a Jeep a Jeep? When it's a Willys Jeep, especially one with a 30 cal on a pintle mount. This rugged World War II 4x4 hauled troops and towed gear. Lightweight, reliable and iconic, with over 600,000 built. They helped win the war and became a symbol of freedom and off-road adventure worldwide. The 1943 Chevrolet C8AX was a specialized Canadian military pattern CMP truck, built to carry the 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft gun. Designed for mobility and rugged terrain, it featured a 4-wheel drive chassis and was used extensively by Commonwealth forces for air defense roles. Approximately 2,000 C8AX units were produced by General Motors of Canada. These vehicles played a crucial role in protecting Allied troops from aerial attack, especially during the later stages of World War II. I believe the combination of the C8AX and Bofors gun proved effective, with the vehicle often seen in Northwest Europe and the Italian campaign. The 1941 Chevrolet CMP Canadian military pattern field artillery truck was a robust 4x4 vehicle designed for towing field guns and transporting troops or ammunition. I believe over 500,000 across all variants were made. It became a logistical asset for British Commonwealth forces during World War II. The 1941 model featured a short cab, flat nose, and all-wheel drive, ideal for rugged terrain. This one had an enclosed passenger compartment. It was reliable and versatile, keeping artillery units well supplied and mobile. The M561 Gama Goat was a unique 6x6 semi-amphibious off-road vehicle developed for the US military during the 1960s. Named after the designer Roger Mahan, it featured articulated steering between its front and rear sections, giving it exceptional maneuverability over rough terrain, but giving it the appearance of a 4x4 towing a trailer. The Gama Goat was powered by a 3-cylinder 2-stroke diesel engine and could carry 1.25 tons of cargo, or 6 troops. Between 1966 and 1973, over 14,000 units were built by a consolidated diesel-electric company. Used primarily in the Vietnam War, it served as a cargo carrier ambulance, and communications platform. Though praised for its off-road capabilities, it was notoriously loud and complex to maintain. Despite these flaws, it filled a critical logistics role before being replaced by the HMMWV in the 1980s. The New Zealand Wheeled Pattern Carrier was a locally produced armoured vehicle created during World War II in response to the limited availability of British armoured support. Designed and built in 1942 to 1943, it was based on the standard 4x4 Canadian military pattern CMP truck chassis, typically Ford or Chevrolet, and fitted with improvised armour made from boilerplate or mild steel due to the shortage of hardened armour plate. According to the museum, 76 were constructed, primarily by New Zealand Railways workshops and other industrial facilities. The design featured an open-topped armoured body with space for a small crew and armament that usually included a Bren light machine gun or a Boy's anti-tank rifle. The carrier's main role was infantry support, reconnaissance, and home defense. This example was one of two that served in an OP role during the Korean War, observing for artillery. These carriers mainly were used for coastal defense and military training within New Zealand during the height of the Japanese threat in the Pacific. While lightly protected, they were mobile and played a vital role in bolstering local defences. The wheeled pattern carrier stands as a testament to New Zealand's wartime innovations and adaptability in the face of limited resources. The Daimler Dingo was a British light scout car developed before World War II, known for its speed, agility, and compact design. Introduced in 1939, it featured a four-wheel drive layout, an advanced pre-selector gearbox, and fully independent suspension. It was adequately armoured and typically armed with a Bren gun. Its low profile and quiet engine made it ideal for reconnaissance and communications roles. Around 6,626 Dingo Scout cars were built by Daimler between 1939 and 1945. The light desert yellow paint scheme looked amazing. The vehicle served in nearly every major campaign involving British and Commonwealth forces, including North Africa, Italy, and Northwest Europe. Its reliability and mobility made it a favorite among reconnaissance units. I believe this Dingo on display at the Geraldine Military Museum was privately owned in New Zealand after the war. It was later restored by local military vehicle enthusiasts and donated to the museum for preservation and education. Today it stands as a rare example of a much admired Allied vehicle that helped shape military reconnaissance. The Ferret Armoured Car with a fixed turret, I believe was referred to as the Mark 1/2, was a British reconnaissance vehicle from the early 1950s. The fixed turret version prioritized low profile, simplicity and speed, making it ideal for reconnaissance and patrol duties. I understand the Geraldine Military Museum acquired its Ferret from a New Zealand military surplus auction where it was purchased by enthusiasts before being restored and donated to the museum for public display and education. Designed for fast, stealthy scouting missions, it featured a compact, lightweight chassis with all-wheel drive and was armed with a fixed turret mounting a machine gun. Approximately 4,400 Ferret vehicles were produced between 1952 and 1971, serving with British and Commonwealth forces, including the First Gulf War. This pair of Bren gun carriers looked ready for action. Compact, fast and versatile, These tracked vehicles were used extensively by British and Commonwealth forces during World War II. Officially known as the Universal Carrier, the vehicle earned the Bren nickname due to its frequent pairing with the Bren light machine gun. Designed to carry infantry, weapons, and supplies, it featured light armor and could reach speeds of up to 30 miles per hour. Over 100,000 were produced between the 1930s and 1960s, making them one of the most widely built armored vehicles in history. Its open-topped design allowed for flexibility but offered limited crew protection. Bren carriers served in nearly every theater of war, from the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of the Pacific. Their reliability and adaptability made them a vital asset to frontline troops in countless Allied operations. Lastly, I found this collection of military water bottles profoundly touching. Each one, scuffed and aged, seemed to carry the silent weight of its own story. If they could speak, they might tell of long marches, shared moments between comrades, or quiet courage in the face of fear. More than simple objects, they are quiet witnesses to history, endurance, and the human spirit. Overall, I'd have to say my favorite exhibit was the Daimler Dingo Scout Car, as I have a soft spot for the desert yellow paint scheme. It looked modern, fast, and the angular steel plates looked like they could easily stop small arms fire. Let me know if you have a favorite. Next, we're off to the Roger Mahan Heritage Centre in Geraldine. The Bob Semple tank replica awaits. About 2 hours' drive from Christchurch and near the Geraldine Military Museum is the Roger Mahan Heritage Centre, home to many historic vehicles, including the curious-looking Bob Semple tank replica. Join me for a look at this forgotten legacy of World War II. The Bob Semple Tank was an improvised armoured vehicle designed during World War II by Bob Semple, New Zealand's Minister of Works. Built on a Caterpillar D8 tractor chassis and clad in corrugated iron, it emerged during a time of deep uncertainty, driven by fears of a Japanese invasion. With no domestic armoured vehicle industry, and Britain unable to spare tanks after the fall of France and evacuation from Dunkirk in 1940, New Zealand had to rely on its own ingenuity. On paper, it made sense using locally available resources at a time when access to overseas military equipment was severely limited. Inspired by a US postcard of a tractor tank, Semple and Christchurch engineer T.G. Beck designed the vehicle without formal plans or blueprints. The first prototype was completed in June 1940 at a Public Works Department's Temuka workshop, with 2 more later built at New Zealand Rail's Addington workshops. The total cost came to £10,225, although the Army was only charged $3,414. Stick around as I hop inside the replica tank with my co-driver. The design featured 6 Bren light machine guns and stood an unwieldy 12 feet, 3.5 meters tall. One gunner even had to lie on a mattress over the engine to operate his weapon. Corrugated manganese steel was used instead of armor plate, in the hope it might deflect bullets. Despite weighing 20 to 25 tons, the tank offered little effective protection, had poor speed, awkward handling, a massive silhouette, and severe aiming limitations that were rendered it ineffective if it was in combat. Vibrations made accurate firing on the move nearly impossible. Although a 37mm anti-tank gun was planned for the turret, it was never fitted. The concept was to rapidly attach prefabricated superstructures to the 81 D8 tractors available through the Public Works Department in the event of an invasion. Despite good intentions, the tank became a target of public ridicule and was never mass-produced or deployed in combat. Only one stripped-down chassis was sent to the Pacific in 1944. The Bob Semple tank is now often cited among the worst tanks ever built. Yet, to me, it remains a symbol of New Zealand's wartime resourcefulness and determination. At a time when Britain could spare nothing, and New Zealand urgently needed a solution, this was a bold, if misdirected attempt to meet the moment. Semple defended the project, saying, "I don't see anyone else coming up with any better ideas." Serial numbers were assigned: NZ6292 at Papakura, NZ3494 and NZ3495 at Burnham, but all were eventually scrapped. Let me know what you think of the Bob Semple tank. I'm happy to learn more about this interesting legacy of World War II. Thank you for watching part 2 of my visit to Geraldine. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you haven't seen part 1, please check it out on my channel.